Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some very interesting things going on over here from Jim Ryan, the PlayStation CEO, and a pretty nice little wrap-up and overview as well over here from PB Oats. And I want to give you guys some kind of cool ideas and concepts of what's going on in the future when it comes to gaming, the PlayStation, and as well some kind of crazy big shots. Some things talking about the Activision acquisition in comparison to Bungie, some live service games, some PlayStation Home, and a lot of other various things too as well. Like a lot of really good future PlayStation 5 stuff coming out of here from Jim Ryan, which is intriguing because the Xbox has been the news for such a long period of time, so seeing even more and more is always really nice. So we're going to talk about this, talk about my thoughts and comments and everything else in between, so make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We also have the Twitter and Twitch room down below if you guys want to follow. Love to have you guys there, and of course give me your thoughts and comments and some of your favorite points when it comes out here from the interviews themselves. So as I mentioned, Jim Ryan does go and float around every now and then, and well, it's kind of a cool nifty thing, mainly because he's, well, the big head honcho at PlayStation, has a lot of good internal details and information when it comes to, well, everything. And a big thing for this one is Jim Ryan himself obviously has more answers than we'd probably expect, being one of the big head honchos of PlayStation. So we're going to go do a bit of a kind of quick through on this one, so if you guys will enjoy it. First and foremost, over here, thank you very much, PB Oats, for just kind of doing the quick little write-up and put this all together as well. Very easy format for it. Saying a couple of things to point out. This interview was conducted in 2022, and some of the questions were previously redacted. And he touched on how Sony Interactive Entertainment looks at potential M&A targets, PSVR 2, Bungie, their first-party portfolio, and touches on Xbox and Game Pass subscription models. So I think it's more just like a kind of big thing to kind of re-reference on. His comments on Sony's interactive first-party portfolio going forward was very reassuring in their opinion, and they think a large contingent of what you will find as well. So they say they'll mention that you'll be launching 10 new games, and your goal is to double your first-party revenue stream within 4 years. So of those 10 games, how much will come from your existing titles? So a good example to see like how much they care more about things essentially like a Genshin, Fortnite, and all these other various big things as well, saying it's just a mixture. I'm not going to go beyond anything that's already been announced, but it would be fair to say that when you look at the IP portfolio and when you think about the biggest names in there, having these games break out from the constraints of the console model is a very significant prospect for us. This kind of seems like more pushing towards maybe PC as well, and also just kind of making brand new things like out of the mold, I would say, for games. You can assume we have a significant portion of our existing AAA IPs will find its way into a live service game, which is intriguing. This kind of thing that we're looking for like The Last of Us, where The Last of Us may have their own proper live service game in the future with updates, multiplayer, etc., etc. I think maybe like something like a God of War, if they somehow made that to a live service game. We have partnerships under development with people who we've already worked with and some new partners who will bring new IPs to PlayStation. There's even one or two things that are completely new that are coming from the ground up. But I think it's the first category that really excites us because those games leverage something that we already know resonates massively with the gaming community. It's also maybe ties into like the Horizon Forbidden West MMO that people were talking about too as well. And they're saying like, let's just go utilize these already kind of good IPs, such as Last of Us, to make them better. What are the double your first party revenue? How many of the 10 games need to be big hits? It'd be naive for us to assume that all 10 will be massive successes. Think maybe like a Ratchet and Clank. Good game, but wasn't a massive success. But it was good, though. It was good. Or like Ghost of Tsushima. New IP. Did well, but it wasn't huge. So that's not just a necessarily condition for us to double first-party revenues. That it's certainly not what we're assuming. Clearly, the distinction between a hit and not a hit is not a binary one. And don't forget that as we do this, we will continue to publish the games that have served us over the past few years. So basically trying to go and say like, hey, like not every game's going to be huge, but we're going to hope a lot of these are very nice with the big PlayStation standard we want. What would be the ideal mix for the first-party games going forward? How much will be live games versus traditional games, which I think is an important thing for me. We will continue to make first-person games like we already have. With those that have a slightly greater sales and profitability. So think like a future God of War single-player game, they're expected to maybe excel a bit better than like a God of War multiplayer game. We're reflecting our confidence in the long-term installed base of PS5, as well as the fact that those games will make their way to PC. So we think that the pie from those games will grow, but that growth will be incremental in nature. We think the live service games will build on that foundation, take us to another level. So Bungie has 1,000 employees and 20-30 years of history making games. You're counting on a big contribution from them to help you make those 10 games as well, which yes, they're trying to talk about this, but don't forget, this is also, I think, before Marathon was announced properly, a little bit of a data interview, but kind of put up a little bit higher, where it makes sense. Like we heard about I think a Bungie fighting game, a Bungie MMO that's not Destiny, Destiny 3, and as well Marathon. That's 4 games already throughout the next, let's say, like 5 years. That could totally be done as well, because I think they're already been in the works for quite some time. Like Marathon was announced, big trailer, concepts, and all of that makes sense. Saying, yes, it is. I've talked a lot about the past couple of years with our publishing partners, many of them who are slightly farther down the road than we are in terms of live service publishing. What they are all in common is that they have all made a lot of mistakes on that road, and I think one of the benefits of being a fast follower in the space is if we're intelligent and thoughtful, we can learn from those mistakes. Basically looking at like a Fortnite or whatever in the future, thinking about what can we do to make it better, like the hiccups, the time stales, like how much manpower, how much actual development, how often to like basically do new releases, how to do collabs, etc., etc. But these partners can be viewed as our competitors, and there's a limit on what they will share. Having a premier live service publisher within the group who is extremely keen to collaborate with Sony massively increase our abilities to learn and our ability to avoid the mistakes. Good example of that is maybe like Bungie. Literally, they own Bungie, so they can use any of the IPs. You could go put like God of War randomly in like Destiny games for live service if you want. Cool skins, microtransactions, or even having Destiny things inside other games do as well. You made it very clear there's going to be acquisitions to come. What's an ideal acquisition target? I think an ideal acquisition target has to help us deliver on our strategies in a way that we're not capable of doing on our own. And when I look for a portfolio of studios and our publishing capabilities, we need to help in the areas in which we're not strong at present. We aspire to grow our community, grow engagement with our games, grow the number of people who are playing those games, grow the amount of time people are spending on these games, move across the PC and mobile, and of course, grow the number of people playing with each game. So basically, they're trying to go and think on acquisitions. While not naming anything, they want to either have specific genres of games, think like JRPGs, like a Square Enix, Final Fantasy, to expand that franchise, or doing things like mobile games or anything else to get more people on there, or even more PC games too as well. If you look at Activision as a target, was it too big to buy? We know Activision extremely well, and they are probably one of our principal partners in terms of deployment, though, of Sony's capital. When you look at $69 billion for Activision compared to a $3.6 billion for Bungie, they actually believe that Bungie would actually be a better overall acquisition target, which does make sense, too. I think kind of the idea of Bungie has more of a chance to grow and make PlayStation more profitable rather than Activision, which might be already at its peak or very, very similar, and still may grow, but as of right now, I think Bungie could become the next Activision over time, if you allow more time. The Game Pass business model, this is a very intriguing one, appears to have some challenges, and Microsoft appears to be losing a lot of money on it. So far, though, it might be room they're actually making money, though. Because the AAA publishers spend $100 million or more on developing titles, they are happy to sell it for $7 in PS5. Subscription model is more of a challenge for them because if you play through the game in like a few weeks and people move off it, like Starfield, they're not making extra money. Like for me, I already did my Starfield Game Pass subscription, and I'm kind of good on that. So they go and say it's not going to be guaranteed, or they have to go out and buy more assets, like Activision upon the platform. Are those the two options for Microsoft? Like what's like basically asking what is the future of how Game Pass might develop or might be good. They will say I can say with a very high degree of certainty that Microsoft has tried the first path, and it did not work at all. That has driven them to make the large acquisition, saying like, hey, we have like Xbox games, we have the Xbox grouping, all of that. It's good, it's nice, but at the same time, like, how do we keep on making more games? Like, our Xbox studios aren't making enough games, or other like third parties as well, such as like say a Baldur's Gate. We can't get everyone because they want to sell on PlayStation 2. What can we do to make it better? And that's kind of why they did this Bethesda and also as well Activision stuff. So it's intriguing to say that they're basically saying no. They said the recent number of subscribers that Microsoft announced in January was 25 million. I'm sure everyone has their own views on this, but I personally was expecting a larger number as well, because he's also saying they have 50 million on PlayStation Plus on the subscribers, and they say they actually have a more meaningful, maybe not more meaningful, but a very meaningful subscription service comparison to Game Pass. So basically they're saying, hey, yo, like, Game Pass is cool, but they're throwing all this money, and we're somehow still doing better. Give it a more time, though. If they get something like Activision, I still think that might swing more in Game Pass's favor, at least in my opinion. And what is Sony's metaverse strategy? How big of a role will the VR2 play into that one? I've actually been playing VR chat a little bit. I played that with a cat girl randomly, so shout out to Parody on that one. Very intriguing stuff. But it's only going to be for gaming, or it'll be for something broader in terms of applications and markets. We're approaching metaverse conversations through two lenses. First is a platform holder, so think more of like actually having games such as a metaverse, or having like a PlayStation VR as well, and also bringing back something big called PlayStation Home, which a lot of folks, like, that's a big announcement, I would say, in my mind, for the PS3. And that was a very early manifestation of the platform metaverse. It was probably 10 to 15 years of its time, and they're trying to have their own, like, basically central hangout hub where people can go and launch into games or PlayStation VR and basically make it so people can and go and utilize different types of games, which I think is kind of nifty and kind of cool. So they're saying, like, yeah, we have these cool projects that are very exciting for PlayStation VR or more hangouts, and in terms of creating some sort of game-type metaverse, which can possibly have collaboration with other parts of Sony. So basically trying to have a chance, like, imagine like a God of War in the metaverse, or VR game, or have a combination of every game out there in like one PlayStation hangout, or even having more of these games on PlayStation VR 2 as well. This is Netflix also up in the industry and TV and movie content. They want to give free content at no extra charge. I'm curious how you think about the Netflix emerging presence in the gaming space. And they're like, Ayo, we like Netflix, saying, hey, it's important to watch them, because they also don't forget they have their own things such as Funimation, Crunchyroll that PlayStation Sony owns, and some of what they're doing such as leveraging the IP portfolios with game type applications is smart, although once again they need to be careful. They are working with them, and well, at least I probably discussed it, but they also want to maybe try to go take out of their business model if they can. So a lot of really big news, I would say, calling out Xbox, talking about the future of VR, a lot of big stuff and all this. So thank you once again, P.O. Oats, for talking about this, and make sure you guys are subscribed with your notifications on. Give me your thoughts and comments down below, and I appreciate you guys all so much for watching here in the first place.